Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia video. Today we're going to do a character guide on Aerith. So, for those of you unfamiliar with Aerith, she is a very good battery heal support character. And now she gets a little bit of force charging, so that's very exciting as well. So, very good, solid support character. So we're going to go ahead and look at her in this video. We'll look at her calls, and we're going to look at her artifacts and spheres, and then we'll jump into the showcase. So, starting by looking at her calls, she actually has some very good calls. So her 15 isn't anything crazy, but it does for like the person using it, the caller. They're going to get a big attack up, a magic attack up, and a brave regen up. So that's actually very, very good, which is very, very cool. And then on the LD call, Seal Evil, this one's actually pretty cool because it doesn't really have a caller effect on it, but what it does is it puts a really cool debuff on the enemies, which makes it so they have HP damage taken up. It's not as good as Kurisame's, but it's still something. But the big thing is it prevents the enemies from buffing themselves. So that's a very, very unique ability. So if you are doing a fight where the enemies are buffing a lot, like this could be a pretty decent call to bring. So Aerith is a call I haven't used a ton, honestly, but it is pretty solid, right? I think the reason why it gets overlooked is the HP damage up isn't as good as other calls. But, I mean, you combo that with the ability to make the enemies not be able to buff is actually quite good, right? So those are the calls. Let's look at Aerith herself here. So, her build is kind of interesting. Definitely not a straightforward build for this character. And it's really built on kind of how she scales with her battery, right? So let's go ahead and look at the artifacts first. Now, her artifacts are interesting because she is a cursed artifact character, right? So in the past, so this is what both of her cursed artifacts look like. For those of you unfamiliar with that, basically it was when they tried incorporating reworks into the artifacts, so the artifacts are like really loaded compared to other ones. So her cursed artifacts are Healing Wind use, so Charged Healing Wind Boost All, which is you get one extra use of Healing Wind and then raises the party's max brave by 15%. And then the other one is Charged Prayer of the Cetra, which is just +1 to Prayer of the Cetra. Now, back when the Cursed Arts originally came out, you typically always wanted to put both of them on. But for characters that have the one where you just get one skill use, that's not nearly as important in today's game. Like, it's very rare that characters are actually using all their skills. So, what you want is you do want Charged Healing Wind Boost All, but what you want to do is you want to combo that with Attack 108. Now, you already heard me say that Aerith is like a support battery character, and you've seen me in the past with these support characters really emphasize more like Max Brave or I Brave. The thing with Aerith is that a ton of her kit, her healing and battery, actually scale on attack. So she's an example of like what I would consider a non-DPS support character that attack is actually extremely important. So really the number one combo you want is Attack 108 and Charged Healing Wind Boost All. I would really try going for 3 of these. That's really, really what you want. Because if you've got 3 of these on, the party's max brave is increased by 45%. Like, that's just an insane amount of max brave for the party. So you definitely want 3 of those. That's what you want there. Okay? Now when we go into the spheres, once again, we're going to keep these things in mind, right? So for the A sphere, you really want attack, right? And the thing with her A sphere is her sphere herself, she actually has an A sphere, which is a 15% magic attack, which is really powerful. The problem is that Aerith, once again, is not an offensive DPS character, and all of her battery and heal that scale off of attack, it's just regular attack, not magic attack. So you actually don't want to use her sphere. Like, Aerith's sphere is a top tier sphere for like a DPS magic character. So give it to somebody like Terra or somebody like that, or like Clouded Darkness, but you actually don't want to give it to herself. So what you're really looking for on the A spheres is you want attack either comboed with Max Brave or comboed with I Brave. Because Aerith also has some Brave gains in her kit, and it's kind of mixed. Some of it scales with Max Brave, some scales with I Brave, but a lot of it scales with attack. So I think you're good with either an attack Max Brave sphere or an attack I Brave sphere. So I opted for Sephiroth, which is Max Brave and attack. When your HP is full when entering the last wave, which on a Shinryu fight, you just enter right away at full health, so that works, right? Gilgamesh would be another attack Max Brave. Yang is another one that you can use. And then Arden is another one. Now, Prish and Renoa also have them, but they're not easily accessible because Prish you need weakness damage, and Renoa you want to be under HP threshold, which Aerith you're usually going to be full HP. So I would avoid those two, but I'd say Sephiroth, Gilgamesh, Yang, or Arden are good for attack Max Brave. Otherwise, you can do attack I Brave. If you want to do attack I Brave, the ones you're going to want to go for are either Machina, Jekt, Lightning can work, and that's it. And then the other ones you have Dark Knight Cecil, but that's an HP lowered one, which you don't want. And then Cater is an evasion sphere, so you're not going to trigger that. And then you have a weakness damage sphere on Anna Crow, which she isn't always going to be targeting, right? So those are the spheres I'd be looking at, is probably the attack Max Brave or attack I Brave. Just make sure you're picking one that she can access, right? So I did Sephiroth because that's what I had. C slot, very easy. Best in slot here is Garnet. Now, I talked about Garnet on, oh gosh, what was it? I think it was on Renoa, actually. Because you want a, Garnet is a healing sphere that, like, selfishly raises their own attack, right? And I said Renoa was such a special case for this because there aren't many healing characters that are DPS characters, so it works great on Renoa. Well, it also works great on Aerith. Aerith is your typical healing support character, not a DPS, but because her battery scales on attack, selfishly giving her a bunch of attack is actually a good thing. So I would say Garnet is actually best in slot here on Aerith. Otherwise, go with one of those like Maria or Lude, like those typical C slots. They're going to like buff party attack. But I would say Garnet is actually best in slot there. And then on the D slot, this is just your typical pick one of those D spheres I always talk about that is just a party attack up. So Ashe, Saz, Lise, Hope. I think Queen is another one. And then Luna Freya if you have weakness damage, which we don't, so not Luna Freya. So I just happen to have a Saz one already on her, so I just left that on there. But any party attack, but really with Aerith, you want to go attack, 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 because her battery is just so like impacted by it, right? So let's go ahead and let's hop into a showcase here. So let's go ahead and we will hop in. So let's back out of this page, and then I'm going to showcase her on her own stage here. This is the intersecting will, and for this stage we do need to have Ice Enchant, which we do have with Luna Freya. So we're good to go there. I'm just checking out a curiosity. Okay, I was just seeing if perhaps I had an Aerith friend, but I don't, so that's okay. We'll just grab a selfie, I guess. I was going to grab an Aerith friend if I could, because I actually skipped the banner, so there was no summon video. I decided to flat out skip because I had everything on there, literally except Aerith FR. And if I was serious about Aerith FR, I would have needed Dupes, because I need high power stones. And there's just too much coming up that I want to summon for. Like, Final Fantasy VI is my jam, and I need to get Celes maxed out. I have to. So, I'm going to kind of give myself a break on this one. So, my Aerith is, like, all maxed out. She just doesn't have the FR, and I don't think Aerith needs the FR. She's plenty good without it. And other characters like, Tifa and Renoa, like the big DPSs, they're the FRs I want to be using anyways, right? So Aerith is going to operate just fine. So for the FR portion of this video, I can't show it to you, but I'm just going to explain it, and it's pretty straightforward, right? So Luna Freya, we're going to start off right away, and let's quick prayer Aerith to give her some turns. Might as well do it. Okay, and then sure, we'll just pop one of these. And then we should be good to go there. We should have our weakness damage up right away. Alright, so with Aerith, she doesn't really have a set like turn order or anything like that. She operates like a little bit differently from a typical character, right? So I guess the first one I'll show you here is, let's actually do the LD right away. You're going to notice that she really doesn't have offensive skills at all. You're actually going to use her HP plus quite a bit. So let's just start with the LD so we can kind of talk about that. So this is called Seal Evil. So let's go ahead and pop that one off. And let's see what kind of damage we get here. Okay, so yeah, like a mil and then 800k, like that's pretty good for an LD, right? For a support character. So what this does is it does a big party battery and it scales off of her attack, okay? And then does an AoE attack as you saw there, and then Brave gains in between. Then what it does is it gives her a buff called Seal Evil. Now this buff is extremely important. So this Seal Evil buff is 12 turns. You really want to upkeep that. So what it does is, one that's really ridiculous, is it does party debuff evasion 100%. That is huge. Like her and then like Lena have that, right? I've always used Lena for her debuff evasion, but Aerith has it as well, and that's a very important skill to have because they will come out with bosses that have very troublesome debuffs, and she's just a great way to flat out avoid it, right? And then all enemies are going to get an attack down, a speed down, and a defense down as an aura. So it's not like a debuff that they can just wipe off. As long as she's got Seal Evil on, they are getting debuffed, right? So that's very, very good right there. But the reason why Seal Evil is so important is with that buff up, anytime Aerith attacks the enemy, she follows up with a gravity attack. So what this gravity attack is that Seal Evil that we saw there, but the gravity actually scales off of her attack. So she's going to gravity by 150 hold on, sorry. Ignore that phone call. Forgot the turn do not disturb on, but we'll just keep going forward here. And that was a spam call anyways, right? So Seal Evil, it does a gravity scaled off of her attack. So another reason why attack is so important on her. Batteries the party based on attack. And that extends all of her buffs by 1 turn. So this follow-up is going to constantly keep her buffs upkept. So as long as she's doing it, it's going to extend them all by 1 turn. Obviously, Seal Evil itself can't be extended, but the other ones can be, right? And then it puts a debuff on the enemies called Planet's Abomination, which that's the one from the call that's really good. It's HP damage taken up, and then prevents them from buffing. So basically with Aerith on the team, you cannot be debuffed, and they cannot buff themselves. This is very good in select fights where the enemies are very toxic with what they're doing. She can really help you avoid all that straight up. So that's really, really good, right? So then what you're going to be doing most of the time when you're just on a turn attacking, you're either using HP attack Seal Evil or you're using Fury Brand, which is the EX. So let's do this HP special attack that we have here. So you see just like a little attack, nothing too crazy, but then that follow-up from Seal Evil. So just on our HP plus, we did 700, over 700k with like 280k splash. So once again, not like an offensive powerhouse, but very good damage for like what a support character is going to do, right? And then the enemies, we're going to keep refreshing that debuff every time that Seal Evil goes off, right? So now her other attack that you're going to use quite a bit is Healing Wind. This is a force charging ability. It's a free instant turn. Will charge the force gauge. You can see we got a big bump there, right? So you could sit and spam this to charge the force gauge, which is very cool, right? Or, obviously, you use it for healing. So mainly what it is, it's a big party heal, scales off of her attack. Party battery, scales off of her attack. Instant free turn. And then it does a party Eye Brave up. So once again, just big fat heal, instant turn, force charges. Let's pop the EX. So this is called Fury Brand. In the EX here, we'll watch the damage here, see what we get on it. Okay, and then just goes into an attack with the Seal Evil. 1.3 mil with 300 splash. Once again, that's good for a support character, right? And she's got a lot of attack built in because you want to support those batteries, right? So Fury Brand, the EX, once again, party battery scaled on her attack. And then does the HP attack, heals the party, okay? And then it gives her a buff called Ancient Lineage. And this one is an attack up, and then this has got a lot packed into it, by the way. So this EX buff is good because she gets an attack up, but then there's a big fat party attack up, Brave gain up, HP damage up, overflow gain. So it's a very, like, this buff is very good to upkeep because you pretty much press the EX whenever it comes up. One, because she doesn't have many offensive moves anyway, so you just want a button to press. But that buff is very, very potent, very, very good. Now, her last skill is actually kind of niche. It's Prayer of the Cetra. So what you do is you use it and you target a character. A very rare skill. This actually can revive a fallen character. And if you revive a fallen character, you actually can still meet score requirement. It doesn't hurt you when you do that. So it is something you can do, but you really don't use it much because characters aren't dying too often. You usually want to play so that your characters don't die. You still want to press this button once in a while, though, because it does have some buffs associated with it. So even though nobody's dead, I can still try to revive Luna Freya, right? And what it does is it'll just do a big fat heal anyways. So it'll either revive and heal, or it will just heal. So it healed, and this heal is scaled on her max HP, so kind of odd that all the other ones are scaled on attack, but I wouldn't worry about that. And then it battery scales on Eye Brave for this one, right? And then she gets Cetra's Favor buff, which is a defense up, max brave up, magic attack up, and Eye Brave up. And then it just gives her a generic attack up. So just to upkeep those buffs, I'll press it once in a while, but you could see as a very, very low skill use. So what you could do, and the reason why the skill use is so low, we'll go back to it here, right? She only had 4 skill uses of it. And the reason why that's so low, it's because they baked that into the cursed artifacts, and I didn't put that cursed artifact on. So if you did go 3 Prayer of the Cetra boost up or whatever, then you would have 7 skill uses of it, but you don't need it. Like, it's not a button you have to press often. And those buffs are like 9-turn buffs. So you're going to be fine. It's definitely not the Corver kit. I would much rather have the attack 108 than have the 3 extra skill uses of Prayer of the Cetra, for me personally, right? So that's basically it, right? That's Aerith. Let's go ahead and do the EX again, and let's talk about the FR. So I don't actually have the FR, but what she's going to do, and I believe on her FR she pairs up with Yuna, which is a very nice pairing. I think so. She pairs with Aiko, my bad. She pairs with Aiko, which is a good little pairing, right? So the thing that's very unique about Aerith FR, it's the first FR in the game that actually doesn't do damage. So what it is just a party heal, scaled off of max HP for that one, and then a party battery, huge battery, but scales on attack once again, right? And during the force time, the party just gets HP regen, like, constantly. And so what happens is most force times, when you start the gauge at 120% and you do attack. What they do is they compensate you here. Since your force attack doesn't actually do an attack, they actually start you at 150, so they give you a little boost to start off, which is really, really nice. And then she does actually have very favorable HP up conditions. So the first one is just a Transform Braver HP command, which is similar to Charlotta, and literally every character in the game pretty much can do it. Because even it doesn't have to be an HP attack with a different name, it just needs to be HP plus or Brave plus, which basically every character does an HP or Brave plus attack. That's 40% and very easy to trigger, right? So like Machina can like go to town here. Renoa can go to town here, right? Like absolutely insane. And then you get another 20% if you battery, right? So let's say Renoa does one of her transform HP attacks, and then if that attack also batteries, you're getting 60%. If Aerith is the one doing it, she gets 40% on the battery. So Aerith, during her force time, as long as you're using that HP attack Seal Evil, she batteries on that, she's getting 80% per shot. So that's very, very good. The thing with Aerith too, I should mention about like why the force isn't as important and why I chose to skip it, is she comes back later with a BT and the FR is going to be back. So if I'm going to go for her BT later, then I'll just get the FR BT. And Aerith is definitely good enough right now with the LD, right? So anyways, guys, there you go. That's Aerith. Let me know what you all think. I think she's a great support character. Let me know if you like her or not. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.